Martial arts. If there's one life lesson I could pass on to absolutely everyone, irrespective of age or body shape or anything, it's that you should pick up a martial art. I've done my fair share of martial arts, but more so, I'm just a massive fan. I'm very enthusiastic about this stuff and I could talk about it for hours. For everyone that's new, it can seem extremely daunting because there's so many different styles to pick from. Do I want to specialize in a particular style? Should I go towards the direction that combines a bunch of different types of martial arts? I think it goes without saying this video is going to be extremely subjective, but I do believe I have enough experience to help you make a choice. So naturally, this is going to be a tier list video. Oh my god, what a surprise. It's going to be angled around someone who's just starting off, they have no prior experience in a martial art, and they're looking to train for at least 6 months to a year. Which martial art is going to be effective if you know you're going to get a quality instructor? Now, in an attempt to try and remove any kind of bias, I've set up a point system. Essentially, I'm going to have 5 questions I'm going to ask. It's going to be 3 categories. Beginner friendly. Are the techniques taught practical against the average person? And how quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? Conditioning, how fit do you get from just doing the martial art? I'm not talking about extra fitness you're going to do on top of it. How fit would you get from just doing the martial art itself? And how comfortable would you get in a serious situation? So this includes sparring and pressure testing. And then an additional category, future progression. How well-rounded will you get from continuing to just do this martial art? Each of these are going to be scored out of 5. That will give a score out of 25, multiplying that by 4 will give us a score out of 100. It's extremely complicated math, I know, you can try and keep up, it's fine. When we get that score out of 100, that's going to bring us onto our tier list. So the S tier, any martial art that scores between 80 and 100, that's going to be what I think the best of the best. A tier, getting a score between 60 and 80, these are going to be solid. B tier, a score between 40 and 60, these are going to be average. C tier, a score from 20 to 40, these are going to be meh. And F tier, trash, I wouldn't even look at it. I do realize that me answering these questions is still essentially going to be very subjective, but I think we can kind of like work out which is going to work. Also, after the F tier, I've also included a DK tier, don't know. These are martial arts that I either just don't know enough about, such as Mongolian wrestling, because if I included that, I'm just going to be like, oh my god, it's wrestling but in Mongolia? So, I don't know enough about it. I could make it up, but I'd rather not give false information. Ooh, hope that doesn't come to bite me in the ass. Knowing all that, let's move on to our first martial art, which is going to be Aikido. Aikido, I'm going to be basing a lot of it from what Rokas from my martial art journey has gone over. He was a black belt in Aikido and realized it's actually kind of average. That's being nice, it's kind of bad. Unless your name's Steven Seagal. The techniques taught practical against the average person, I'm going to give that a 1. As soon as things get a little bit scrappy, Aikido kind of just goes out the window, so I don't think it's very good there. Can a beginner pick up the techniques taught, like pretty quickly? I'm going to give that a 2. I think some of the techniques are simple, but there's other ones that are going to be what's the word I'm looking for? They're going to be overcomplicated for the sake of being overcomplicated, so I'm giving that a 2. Conditioning, do you get fit from just doing this? Ironically, I think you would get more fit if you're the person doing the throws. Sorry, not the throws, being thrown around. Like some of those people look very active. So, but if you're just doing the martial art itself, I don't think you really get much of a workout from it, so I'm going to give that a 1. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? Yeah, that's going to be a 1. Most Aikido gyms don't do sparring, and the pressure testing is not very pressureful. I don't even know if that's a real word, but that's also a 1. And future progression, how well-rounded do you get from continuing to do just this martial art? I'm giving that a 1 as well. You do locks, throws and stuff, but I don't think they're very effective. The strikes in there aren't very effective. I don't think they do much groundwork, and you're just not going to be very good all around. I think arguably, you might be better off just not learning Aikido at all. So overall, that gives us a score of 24, which puts Aikido in C tier. I mean, I'm okay with it being there. You do learn how to fall properly, like break falls and roll properly. That's actually important if you get in a street fight, but that's kind of where it goes for me. I think apart from that, Aikido's, C tier. Next martial art, BJJ. I have not included Japanese Jiu Jitsu or Gracie Jiu Jitsu just because I have not done those. I have no experience in them. I've only got experience in BJJ. BJJ is awesome. I think it's one of the best martial arts out there. I think it does have its limitations. It is definitely overhyped at the moment, but it is extremely effective. But anyway, moving on to the tier list. Are the techniques taught practical against the average person? I'm going to give that a 4. I think the techniques are going to be extremely effective against the average person. The only reason I don't give it a 5 is because there's no striking. There's no striking in BJJ, and some BJJ gyms don't teach takedowns. It's all from the ground because BJJ is a form of ground fighting. I think most of these days do teach takedowns, but irrespective, 4. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? I'm going to give that a 2. The techniques in BJJ, if you have no other experience with other martial arts, again, are going to be overwhelming. It's a very information-dense martial art. It can take a lot to get comfortable with the moves being taught and the throws and the positions. There is a lot to learn. So 2 out of 5. Conditioning, how fit do you get from just doing the martial art? 4.5 out of 5. Anyone who's done any form of ground fighting will know that you get extremely fit. It is taxing. Your first session is going to make you want to quit, but don't. It's really good. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? I'm giving that a 3.5. For most people, it's going to be extremely effective, but like you don't want to build that bad habit of, I hate saying it, but it needs to be said of when you fight in the streets, bro. You don't want to pull guard and go straight to the ground just in case there is another attacker. Also, you kind of want to stay on your feet as much as possible, but BJJ is extremely effective. It just has holes. But yeah, 3.5 out of 5. And how well-rounded do you get from continuing just to do this martial art? I've given that a 3 out of 5. I think it seems a little bit... look, you can definitely make the argument of bumping that up a bit, but if you're at a BJJ gym that doesn't teach takedowns, you've just taken out takedowns and strikes. That's a lot to not learn. It's kind of getting rid of half of your fighting skills. You're maxing out and just ground fighting, but it is extremely good. But anyway, BJJ, that gives us a final score out of 68, which will put it in the A tier. So BJJ A tier. I think that's reasonable. Right. Next martial art. This is going to be a long video. Boxing. I actually love boxing. I think, arguably, this can be a bit controversial, but I think boxing is one of the best, if not the best martial art to start off with. I think it gives such a good foundation of movement and being on your feet. I think boxing is going to be one of the more useful martial arts against multiple attackers. Boxing's awesome. I think it lays a good foundation for other martial arts. So for example, if you want to learn boxing for like a year and then you move into a kind of grappling martial art after that, I think you will just become an absolute monster. But anyway, boxing, other techniques taught practical against the average person. That's 4.5 out of 5. I think we have so much evidence online of boxing just being extremely effective against the average person. So yep, that's up there. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? I'm giving that a 4.5 out of 5. Boxing is extremely simple. You're maxing out your perks in movement, distance management, and strikes. Sorry, hand strikes. Not hand strikes. Punching. I got to be specific. Boxing is extremely simple, I think. There's a lot you can learn from it, but boxing, I love it. I think it's really good. How fit do you get from doing boxing? I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Boxing, you're going to be extremely conditioned. Even just pad work, you're going to get extremely tired, especially if you got a good pad holder who will kind of throw out hits to check your defense. You're moving around. You're going to get extremely conditioned from boxing. You get fit. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? I've given that a 4 out of 5. Especially most, if not all, boxing gyms are going to include some kind of sparring. And you're just going to get extremely used to people throwing out punches, which is going to be one of the more common, if not the most common strike of someone who's untrained, like the massive haymakers and loose punches. I think you're going to be extremely comfortable in managing yourself. How well-rounded do you get from just doing this martial art? This is where boxing, as much as I love boxing, I'm going to give that a 1.5 out of 5. You are leaving a lot of holes in boxing. So while you're maxing out your perks in movement and punching, your stance is going to be extremely open to low kicks. And if you're going to shell up, if someone's punching you back, you are now open to takedowns. So if you have no experience in them, when you go to the ground, you're going to be scattered. Like, you're going to struggle. I can't give it high as much as I'd love to. I can't give it higher than that. But I think for the average person who's going to train for 6 months to a year, boxing's awesome. But I would not ignore the wrestling or grappling aspect of martial arts. So boxing, that gives it a score of 74, which places it in above BJJ. Still in the A tier, so nothing in the S tier yet. I think that's also fair. I don't think as much as I love boxing, I do think that, yeah, like I said, it has its flaws. So I think A tier, high A tier is valid. All right, next one, Capoeira. Capoeira, I find the history of Capoeira extremely interesting. Is it confirmed? I don't know, but it's suggested at least. I'm pretty sure it's confirmed that it was developed by slaves to train in private. So when their captors would look at them, they'll think, oh, they're just dancing, but they're actually learning how to fight. Now, Capoeira is a specialist martial art. They're focusing on kicks. I know they do have some hand strikes. They have some sweeps. Ground fighting, I think, from traditional Capoeira is non-existent. But it's cool. Like, I like it. But anyway, we're not rating these based on their coolness. Maybe we'll make another video for that. Other techniques taught practical against the average person. I've given that a 3. If you get hit with one of their spinning kicks, there's a good chance you're going to wake up into next week. But like that, yes, they are effective, but they can be hard to land. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? Yeah, I'm going to give that a 2.5. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5, and it all depends on how flexible and how good your mobility is, because the techniques are going to require high kicks, and if you're already quite mobile, then you will pick it up quicker than others, but it is going to be hard to pick up. How fit do you get from just doing the martial art? 4.5 out of 5. I think if you are good at Capoeira, you are fit. Like, you're flexible, your mobility is up there, and the constant flipping around, like, you have to be fit to be good at Capoeira. So the fitness you get from it is high. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? 2 out of 5. A lot of Capoeira gyms just do the type of, I guess, the dance in the circle. I can't remember what the name of that is, but I don't think a lot of Capoeira gyms do sparring, like actual sparring. So correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to say traditional Capoeira. I'm sure there's modern Capoeira gyms out there that include ground fighting and sparring, but we've got to talk about traditional. And how well-rounded you get from just doing this martial art. 2 out of 5, I think. Oh, excuse me. I think, how well-rounded you get from just doing this martial art? Yeah, there's a lot of holes. There's a lot of holes you can learn. Like, I think Capoeira, you can adapt some techniques into a different style. So you see McGregor doing that spinning kick. I don't actually know if it landed ever, but it looks cool. And if it did land, it's going to be, I would think, an instant KO. So Capoeira by itself is average, but if you use its techniques for a different style, it can be really cool. But that gives it a score of 56, which will put it in the B tier. I was going to say I'm maybe at the very end, I might shift them around, but that kind of renders this point system invalid. So once it's up on the board, it's going to stay there. All right, next martial art, catch wrestling. Catch wrestling is awesome. It's going to be way more explosive than BJJ. They're going to have a bigger emphasis on takedowns. Our techniques taught practical against the average person, 4.5 out of 5. Wrestlers are just built differently. Like, if you've seen Like if someone like Ben Askren, who has absolutely no skill perks in his striking category, but he can get to the top of the martial art UFC game, then there's got to be something said to wrestling. Can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? I haven't done a lot of catch wrestling. From what I can tell, I think it's a bit simpler than BJJ. 3.5 out of 5. I think it's going to be a bit more straightforward than BJJ from what I've seen and what I've done, but I haven't done a lot of it, so more than happy for someone to correct me on that. Catch wrestling, how fit do you get from just doing the martial art? I'm going to give that a 5 out of 5. When I've done it, I have been exhausted. The fact of even just dropping levels and bursting in for a double leg, throwing your opponent, trying to get the pin. It's quick, it's explosive. And yeah, wrestlers are just built differently. So I'm happy giving that a 5 out of 5. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? I'm going to say 3.5 out of 5. But I think that could be higher. Like, you're not striking. Like, in wrestling, you're indirectly going to get shouldered to the head. You know what I mean? But they're not doing strike. I'll leave that at 3.5 out of 5. And how well-rounded you get from just doing this martial art? I'm going to leave that at... Yeah, I'll leave that at 3.5 out of 5. What did I give BJJ? 3. I think when you're doing wrestling, you are going to be doing takedowns. A lot of them are going to be doing submissions, locks. I'm happy with keeping that at a 3.5. You could argue it's higher, but I think because you're not doing strikes, I'll keep that at 3.5, which gives it a score of 80, which, that puts it into the S tier. I'm actually happy with that. Like, I think wrestling is extremely effective. Okay, next one. Oof, we're going to the other side of this spectrum for this one. If catch wrestling is 200 IQ, then Dim Mac is going to be 2 IQ. Dim Mac, the touch of death. Are the techniques taught practical against the average person? Well, it's not real, so it's going to be a 0. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? You know what? I'm not even going to give it a bone. I was going to give it 1 because I think it's, 0. 0, Dim Mac, 0. How fit do you get? 0. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? That's a 0. And how well-rounded do you get from this martial art? Ooh, well, that's got to be a 0. So, sorry, Dim Mac, F tier. If anyone tries to teach you that there's a touch of death, just ignore it. Put it in the bin. F tier. Okay, what do we got next? Greco-Roman wrestling. I'm going to put that in the DK tier. From what I understand, let me just put it there. Put it here. From what I understand, Greco-Roman wrestling it's wrestling, but you know what? I'm not even going to go into it. I actually don't know enough about Greco-Roman wrestling to be able to rate it properly. If you all want me to see... let me start again. If anyone would like me to rank these, I'll actually sit down and do some research and try to look into if they're good, if they sound good. But for now, I'm going to put it in there. I just don't know enough about it. DK tier. Next one. Hapkido. I'm actually doing some Hapkido at the moment, and it's underrated, actually. It is I believe it's a Korean hybrid martial art. So it's kind of like is it weird to say like a traditional form of MMA? Hapkido takes its kicks from Taekwondo, its punches... Well, I'm not going to say takes its influence. So its kicks are influence from Taekwondo, its punches influence from Karate. It's got some Jiu Jitsu, it's got some Judo throws. Jiu Jitsu, it's got some ground fighting in there. Hapkido's underrated. Its kicks are not going to be good as people who do Taekwondo. I don't think its punches are going to be as good as people who do karate. Jiu Jitsu, they're not going to be able to beat their ground game, but you're going to get a big ball of everything. So I think you can become quite well-rounded doing Hapkido. Hapkido, the techniques taught, practical against the average person, I'm going to say 4 out of 5, just because you're going to get introduced to everything. Stand-up, ground game, throws, you're going to get everything. So 4 out of 5. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? I'm going to give that a 2 out of 5, just because it's going to be so dense with everything. It can seem overwhelming if you have no history of anything. So, you know, one lesson you're going to be learning how to do a spinning kick, and then the next one you're going to learn how to do some ground fighting. And then you're going to be doing a lot, but time spent doing one thing is time not spent doing another. So you're going to be spread out. But anyway, yeah, moving on, 2.5 out of 5. How fit do you get from just doing the martial art? 3.5 out of 5. In the classes where you're going to be spending the time doing a lot of kicking, it's going to be exhausting. I mean, I just did that the other day and I was dead. Then you're going to have other classes where, excuse me, you're going to have other classes where you're going to be practicing a throw, but it's going to be technique rundown, and you're not going to be that tired afterwards. So I think most of the time you're going to be spending, like, it's going to be a good workout, but you're going to have lessons where it's going to be more technique heavy. So do I want to leave that at 3 point? Could it be 3? I'll leave it at 3.5. I think it's a good martial art. I'll leave it at 3.5. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? 3.5 out of 5. They do sparring. You are, like I said, you're being introduced to everything. So you're going to do ground fighting as well, throwing. There's pressure testing as well. So 3.5 out of 5. Like, you are going to have a lot of lessons where it's just going to be going down the technique. But yeah, I think it's good. How well-rounded you get from continuing just to do this martial art? I think 3.5 is fine. Their grading criteria includes like katas and stuff like that. And as much as I can respect the history behind a kata, I personally don't find it useful. Like the blocks we have to go down and then up and stuff. Like, I don't really want to learn that stuff. I mean, I can appreciate it. I just don't find it useful. But the rest of it, like, it is a good martial art. It just has its roots still in that traditional way of life. So 3.5 out of 5, which gives it a score of 68, which puts that into the A tier. So where does that place it? I think that'll place it behind BJJ. Oh, it's tied with BJJ. Do I want to leave these? It's hard to rate between these two, because if a BJJ person knows some stand-up, they're going to do their best to funnel a Hapkido person into groundwork, and then they'll just win. But we're not talking about that. We're just talking about for the average person, trained for a year, 6 months to a year. In that case, Hapkido above BJJ, because if they give up, they're going to have an introduction to everything. So yeah, Hapkido, underrated. JKD. I don't know heaps about JKD. From what I've seen, you have one half of people that say JKD is a philosophy, it's not a style, and then you have other people that say JKD is a style. You need to fight with your strong hand forward. You need to have like the 1-inch punch. These techniques, you need to use them. It's hard to rate. From what I've learnt online and seen, it does seem like, so JKD is going to be primarily focused on strikes. I do believe they have some locks and holds. A lot aren't going to have much, if any, ground game. They might have a couple throws, but they're going to be decent at a lot of things, but not great from what I understand. I mean, obviously you're going to have exceptions where you're going to have JKD gyms that are going to be exceptional. But I think going out and trying to find a JKD gym randomly is going to be a bit of a mess in terms of the quality you'll find. So in saying that, techniques taught practical against the average person. I'll say 3.5. 3.5. I'll change that. 3.5 out of 5. I think the techniques are going to be fine. Can a beginner pick them up quickly? I think JKD is meant to take what works and keep it simple. So I'll give that a 3 out of 5. Do you get fit from doing this martial art? I'm sure they have lessons where they're just doing striking and then other lessons where you're just doing technique. So 3 out of 5. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? I'll give that a 3 as well. Like, it depends if they do sparring. How well-rounded do you get? Because the chance of a JKD gym not doing ground fighting and then limited on throws, wrestling, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. I'm going to leave this up for not interpretation. If someone wants to come into the comments and kind of explain JKD to me better, I don't even know if I've said it, but it's Jeet June Do. Bruce Lee. It's meant to be like, take what works, disregard the rest. 60, a score of 60, which puts it at a low A tier. 60, low A tier. High B tier, 40 to 60. Maybe I should make that 60. No, we'll leave it as it is. 40 to 60, high B tier. I think that's fine. Because the chance of you might have some Jeet June Do gyms which are S, the others that are going to be F. So put it in the middle. I'm happy with that. 60. Judo. Judo is going to be... Judo, from what I understand, is one of the oldest martial arts. It is martial art based on throws. So stand up game, which is awesome. They also have ground fighting and pins. So they got the ground game covered, which is awesome. No strikes, but judokas are not to be messed with. They are brutal, and you will get extremely fit from doing judo. Can you imagine going up against someone the same weight as you and throwing them over and over again? You're going to get exhausted. So, techniques taught, practical against the average person, 4 out of 5. I think if you are able to practice standing up and trying to throw someone else, which means that you need to practice being not thrown, that's going to be so useful in a variety of situations. 4 out of 5. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? 2.5 out of 5. I think it is going to be pretty technique heavy as well. And then you're probably going to get a lot of lessons where you're just kind of being thrown around. I don't even know why I said that. That's actually not true. A lot of judo gyms are really nice. I haven't done judo myself. I've just seen other classes at the gym I've been at doing judo. Judo, I would love to focus more on it. I think it's awesome. But yeah, techniques, I'm going to say 2.5 out of 5 just because there is a fair bit to learn. How fit do you get from just doing the martial art? 4 out of 5. You're going to get so conditioned doing judo. You're going to be extremely fit. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? 3.5 out of 5. I just think that if you're not protecting your face, like if someone's throwing haymakers, you might get clipped, which can knock you out. Like, there's always a striking chance. I know, annoying argument. But you don't do strikes. So 3.5 out of 5. And how well-rounded do you get from just doing this martial art? You got takedowns and you have pins and some ground game. You don't have strikes. That's pretty good. I'm going to say 3.5 out of 5, which gives it a score of 70. So that puts it above Hapkido. Yeah, I'm actually happy with that. Judo's awesome. You're basically, again, you're maxing your perks out in throws. Not maxing, because there's actually a lot in judo. Your ground game's not going to be as good as someone in BJJ, but your throws are going to be better. So, and yeah, you're going to hit them with the earth. So judo's awesome. A tier. Karate. I've done a little bit of karate, not much, and I'm kind of scared to rate this one because there's so many different styles of karate. If you're doing Kyokushin karate, you're going to be up here because they include a lot of sparring They include head strikes, I'm pretty sure. So karate is strikes and they have some throws. Pretty simple. But then other karate gyms are going to be F tier. Like, I think it's pretty easy to give yourself a black belt in karate. You can just kind of make it up, unfortunately. I think karate is cool, but the vast majority of karate gyms out there, there's a lot. And it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag, unfortunately. Like, if you can find a good Kyokushin karate gym, you're going to be a monster. But they can be hard to find. So let's get through this. I'm probably going to get flamed in the comments for this one, but that's fine. Techniques taught, practical against the average person. I'm going to say, yeah, 3. My scale into this one's a little bit... So when I mean that they're practical, are they simple and effective to learn? 3.5. I'll give that 3.5. Like, strikes, I think, are pretty simple. The throws are going to be pretty simple. Kicks are pretty simple. I think it's going to be relatively simple to pick up. Kind of beginner, pick up the techniques taught. 3 out of 5. I think a beginner will pick them up pretty quick, but it is going to be a bit technique heavy, so 3 out of 5. How fit do you get from just doing the martial art? I think that will be relatively similar to Hapkido. So you're going to have some lessons where you're hitting pads and it's going to be pretty intense, but then other lessons where it's going to be very technique heavy. So 3.5 out of 5. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? This is hard just because of all the different styles of karate. Like, sorry to say, but you just know that some gyms, you're not going to be well conditioned for an actual fight. Some you are, you're going to be beefy. Like, I'll give that a 2.5 out of 5. How well-rounded you get from doing this martial art? You have striking, you have some throws, you have no ground game. Let's give that a 3 out of 5. I think you can become pretty well-rounded with karate, but just stay on your feet. Okay, karate, that gives it a score of 62, so that is in the A tier, which will put it below BJJ, above Jeet June Do. I think that is fine. Am I happy with that? Well, I've got to be, because that's how I scored it. Kickboxing. Kickboxing is going to be a pretty general term. Technically, Taekwondo is kickboxing. I think you can call Sanda kickboxing, but when I refer to kickboxing, let's go with the rule set that is given to organizations such as K1 and Glory. In K1 and Glory, there is a clinch, but from what I understand, you need to knee very quickly. You can't just hold it there. You have punching and kicking. So there's a clinch, punching and kicking for kickboxing. I state that because it's going to be important later on when I rank Muay Thai. But anyway, kickboxing are techniques taught, practical against the average person. I think 4 out of 5 kickboxing is going to be awesome. You're getting a good variety of everything. Not everything. Like, you're gonna get very effective at kicking and boxing. It's in the name. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? Because, what did I give boxing? I think I gave that 4.5. I can't give it a 4.5 because time spent kicking is time not spent boxing. So it's going to be lower than boxing. Kickboxing, I'll give that a 3.5. It can take a bit to get comfortable with kicking, but I still think it's a pretty simple martial art. So 3.5 out of 5. How fit do you get from just doing martial art? 4 out of 5. Kickboxing, you're going to be spending time on the heavy bag, time sparring, time on the pads. You're going to get extremely fit. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? Similar to boxing, I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. What did I give boxing? Yeah, 4 out of 5. I'm happy with that because you get, with the vast majority, if not all kickboxing gyms, are going to have some form of sparring. It can be light fighting, can be actual sparring. So you're going to get well conditioned. How well-rounded do you get from just doing this martial art? 3 out of 5. You're going to get good at punching, you're going to get good at kicking, and you're going to have a little bit of clinch work. but it does leave out the ground game. It does leave out throws. So you do have a definite hole. So 3 out of 5, which gives it a score of 74, which will put that in the A tier. Question is where? 74. What does that put it in between? Above judo, below boxing. It's tied with boxing. Yeah, I think I'm actually happy with that. Like, where boxing will go down the route of maxing out your specs in one aspect, kickboxing will add on. Like, I know some people are going to be out there saying, well, if you're learning how to kick, doesn't that mean you'll automatically beat a boxer? And it's more complicated than that. Let's just say these are equal. Boxing and kickboxing, both are going to be very good. Especially if you're just doing it from 6 months to a year. Okay, next one, Krav Maga. This is the martial art I have the most experience in, so the one I can actually feel like I can comment quite well on. Are the techniques taught practical against the average person? I'm going to give that a 4.5 out of 5. The thing about Krav Maga is, the way I see it, it's like a celebration of all martial arts. You're going to be taking what is effective from one thing and add it into the syllabus, and it's going to be another annoying term, but it's street MMA. So you're going to include like groin shots, strikes to the eyes. And I know people out there are going to say, you know, it's a lot harder to get a strike on the eye than what you think. And that's true. But as soon as you go for the eyes, it's going to have that response of, oh crap, someone's gone for my eyes, which leaves up the rest of the body. I think Krav Maga I was lucky enough to have good instructors as well. I know there's some Krav Maga gyms that are going to have bad instructors, but when it's taught well, it can be extremely effective and the syllabus can be extremely good. So 4.5 out of 5. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? 2.5 out of 5. Krav Maga is cursed with being so information dense. So while a lot of instructors are going to say it's extremely simple, it can be. But because you start including knives, sticks, defenses against someone throwing a rock, it can be so information and technique dense that you can lose missing out. Sorry, it's the same thing. You can miss out practicing your strikes while you work on something that may not happen, like someone coming up and hitting you in the back of the head with a baseball bat, which is important, but you're more likely going to get hit in the face with a punch. So 2.5 out of 5. How fit do you get from just doing this martial art? 2 out of 5. Unless you're just doing a striking lesson, because it's so technique dense, you're not going to get fit from doing Krav Maga. It is what it is. Like, I feel like I can actually say that with certainty. A lot of the time, you're going to be practicing someone coming up and stabbing you with a knife. So you'll practice it, pressure test, reset. There's a lot of downtime. So unless the class is including some kind of fitness element afterwards, which we did, but that's not what the question is. The question is, how fit do you get from just doing the martial art, which is Krav Maga? And because there's a lot to do and the way it's taught, you're not going to get very fit. So 2 out of 5. How comfortable do you get in a serious situation? 4.5 out of 5. Krav Maga, the one that I've done, did a lot of pressure testing. They did a lot of multiple attacker drills, so Shark Tank style. It had sparring. You're going to get extremely comfortable with the average attack out there and against the average person. So 4.5 out of 5. And how well-rounded do you get from just doing this martial art? Well, because Krav Maga is so information dense and they're effectively taking what is useful, you can become extremely well-rounded from doing Krav Maga. So I'm also going to give that a 4.5 out of 5. Again, this is all based on if it's taught well. I was lucky enough to have some good instructors. I know there are some very average Krav Maga gyms out there. I'll include this afterwards with lessons you should go by, but just read reviews. Make sure you find a good gym. Doesn't matter what it's for. It goes for everything. 4.5 out of 5, so which gives it a score of 72, which puts it in the A tier. So basically everything's going in A tier. 72, that is below kickboxing. What is it? Below judo? What did I give judo? Judo, I gave 70. Yeah, for the average person that's training for 6 months to a year, you're introduced to everything in Krav Maga, so I think that is fine. Okay. Woof! I think we're about halfway through. Let's keep going. How long have we been recording for? 47 minutes. As Australians would say, struth. Alright, moving on. Where is my list? So what do I do? Krav Maga. MMA. So MMA, I personally think you can now call it a style because you can type in MMA gym and you're going to find an MMA gym. So I think we can include it as a style. Techniques taught, practical against the average person. I think 4 out of 5. They're going to teach you everything and they're going to be very effective against the average person. You might be able to bump that up to... Yeah, I'm going to bump that up to a 4.5. Do I? Yes. MMA, 4.5 out of 5. Because you're being taught everything, if you find a good gym, it is going to be extremely... the technique's going to be extremely practical. Okay. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? I'm going to say 2 out of 5 for that. Just because, similar to something like Krav Maga, I gave Krav Maga 2.5, but there's more in Krav Maga. I'm going to change my Krav Maga score. I'm going to bring that, how quick can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? I'm going to bring that down to a 2, which gives it a score of 70. So that puts it on the same tier as Judo, which I think is fine. I'm also going to give, MMA a 2. Similar to Krav Maga, there's going to be so much to learn. They're going to include striking, throws, wrestling, BJJ. Very information dense. So 2 out of 5. How fit do you get from doing MMA? 4 out of 5. I think most classes you're going to go to are going to be extremely taxing. So you're doing a wrestling class, you're going to be dead. You do a BJJ class, you're going to be dead. Striking class, you're going to be exhausted. I think a lot of the times the technique is being taught alongside doing the class that is going to exhaust you. So 4 out of 5. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? I think that goes without saying. 4.5 out of 5. I think you're going to be able to, even if someone comes up with a bat, as we saw Jeff Chan in the USDC, like he was able to adapt really quick. And I think most MMA people, I'm referring to weapons. And I think most MMA people are going to adapt pretty well to weapons, even if they just train it a little bit with the skills that they already know. So grappling, distance management, kicking. I think you're going to be extremely comfortable in most situations. So 4.5 out of 5. How well-rounded you get from doing this martial art? 4 out of 5. You're going to get extremely well-rounded. They could do a little bit of weapon training, but again, you're going to get basically everything. So that gives MMA a score of 76, which puts it in the, another A tier. Where does that place it though? That places it above boxing, which, again, we're talking about someone who's training for 6 months to a year. Like if we're talking about 5 years, this list is going to be different, but we're talking about someone who has no experience in coming in. MMA, yeah, let's leave it there. Yeah, I'm happy with that. The reason why I'm thinking about it is that a boxer is going to be extremely good at boxing. I think after 6 months to a year of training, an MMA person is going to be solid after a year of training. It's just you would get outboxed by a box, goes without saying. And anyway, we'll move on. We'll leave it there. A tier. What am I up to? Muay Thai. I love Muay Thai. It's one of my favorite martial arts. So Muay Thai is kickboxing, but you're going to include elbows, you're going to include knees, and you're going to include the clinch. So there is a form of grappling. They also have sweeps, and throws. So the only thing that Muay Thai doesn't have is ground fighting. Their throws, it's going to be more of a sweep than a throw, but they do have throws in there. They just don't have ground fighting. But Muay Thai is awesome. It is an awesome martial art to learn. Our technique's practical, extremely practical, 4.5 out of 5. I would like to hear anyone argue otherwise. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? I'm going to say 3. 3 out of 5. I think Muay Thai is pretty straightforward. It's just, there's no, like there are spin-in attacks, but it's very practical, very simple. But there's a lot to learn as well. So 3 out of 5, I think that's fine. How fit do you get from doing the martial art? 4 out of 5. Muay Thai classes are exhausting. This isn't a joke, and they'll be like, do 100 round kicks on one side, then the other. Like, you think that's a joke. It's not a joke. Like, they can be brutal, but you're going to be so conditioned. Excuse me. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? 4.5 out of 5. I think you're going to be so well adapted to a lot of situations in life, and you're just going to be a monster. Like, you'll be a beast. How well-rounded you get from continuing to do this martial art? I'll say 4 out of 5. If I had ground fighting, it would definitely be up there. Like, if you did Muay Thai for a year and then did wrestling or BJJ for a year, like, you would be a beast. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about 6 months to a year. So Muay Thai, 4 out of 5, which gives it a score of 82. So we have another S tier, which puts it above catch wrestling. I think that's fine. I'm okay with that. Okay. Soldiering on. Sambo. I don't know a lot of Sambo. I've seen Sensei Seth do his video on Sambo. I've seen other things, and I think Sambo is extremely effective. It is what is Sambo? Is it Russian? Sambo is a martial art with Soviet origins and internationally praised combat sport. Soviet, okay. Now, Sambo is going to include, so it's primarily wrestling. They do have striking in there. Sambo can also be a blanket term to a lot of different styles. I'm going to refer to sport Sambo, which is the wrestling, and then combat Sambo, which includes strikes. So Sambo is brutal. So they focus a lot on being aggressive, pressure, strikes, throws, pins, wrestling, constant pressure, and as it's been said, the point system of Sambo leans in towards being aggressive. You're as seen, well, from what I've seen, you're not going to be the most crisp person on the planet or have the best style, but you're going to be an aggressive, well-rounded powerhouse with Sambo. Technique's practical, 4 out of 5, very practical. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? Give that 3 out of 5. Like, there is a lot to learn. It's pretty dense, but it is going to be extremely effective. But yeah, there is a lot to learn in Sambo. How fit do you get from doing Sambo? I'm going to say 4.5 out of 5 because there's so much grappling, wrestling, striking, throwing. It's got everything. You're going to be exhausted. How comfortable would you get from a serious situation? I'm going to give that another 4.5 out of 5 because it includes everything. You're going to be so well-rounded to adapt to anything. So yeah, 4.5 out of 5. And I did how well-rounded. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? 4.5 out of 5. How well-rounded would you get from just doing this martial art? That's also 4.5 out of 5. If they did weapon training, that's the only thing I can think of, but otherwise you're doing everything. You've got strikes, you've got throws, you've got ground fighting, you've got wrestling. Sambo is a well-rounded powerhouse of a martial art. And if you just stuck with Sambo for the rest of your life, I think you would be set. But that gives it a score of 82, which puts it right beside Muay Thai. I'm going to put it below just because in Muay Thai, if you're doing it for 6 months to a year, you're maxing out in striking and sweeps. But if you're talking about beyond 6 months to a year, it's going to be a different story. But I'm happy with that. Sanda. Sanda, a Chinese martial art, they have an emphasis on wrestling and takedowns. I did not know too much about Sanda, and then I watched Sensei Seth's video where he went to the Sanda, I think it was in the international championships where he followed the US team. Sanda's cool. I think Sanda's awesome. It's kind of like it's extremely well-rounded. You have strikes, you have some clinch work, you have throws, you have some wrestling as well. I think you get exposed to a lot. They could do more ground fighting, but that's the only thing I can think of. Sanda, the techniques taught practical against the average person, 4 out of 5. I'm kind of just repeating myself at this point, but I think they are going to be extremely effective. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? 3 out of 5. There's a lot to learn, but it's got everything you need. So 3 out of 5. How fit do you get from just doing this martial art? I'm going to say it's probably going to be pretty similar to kickboxing, if not a little bit more, but similar to kickboxing, 4 out of 5, you are going to get extremely fit. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? Because there's that sport element around Sanda as well, you're going to be extremely comfortable, I would think. I haven't done Sanda, but from what I can tell, excuse me, I think you're going to be extremely comfortable in a serious situation. And how well-rounded would you get from just doing this martial art? I'm going to say 4 out of 5. You have everything but some proper ground fighting from what I understand. Because there's throws and some wrestling and pins. Yeah, there's no ground fighting. The big thing about Sanda, because it's a Chinese martial art, from my research of trying to find a good gym in Australia, it's going to be a lot harder than finding, say, a good MMA gym in Australia. So it's going to be more niche, but if there's a good Sanda gym near you, then I would say check it out. I think it's solid, but that gives it a score of 76, which puts it above kickboxing alongside MMA. I'm going to put it below MMA because MMA has there's a high chance of finding a good gym and they have ground fighting, but yeah, Sanda's awesome. I think Sanda's really cool. Okay. Savate, a French style of kickboxing. Savate, I think, is cool. It's kickboxing with shoes, which, I mean, you're going to be wearing shoes if you get into an altercation. I mean, there is a good chance you'll be wearing shoes, so it's good. It's pretty, I think it is very simple to use. You're just using your hands and your feet. There's no elbows, no shins, no clinch, no groundwork. It's extremely simple, straightforward. A very simple, straightforward form of kickboxing. Techniques taught practical, 4 out of 5. I think they are going to be very practical against the average person. Can a beginner pick up the techniques quickly? I would say yes. Savate is very simple, so I think a beginner will pick it up very quick. How fit do you get from just doing the martial art? From what I can tell, their workouts are very similar to kickboxing, so bag work, pad work, sparring. 4 out of 5, I will say. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? I'm going to give that a 3.5 out of 5. I think you're going to be fine. I think they do a lot of distance management work as well, which is good. I can't confirm that, but I think you'll be pretty comfortable in a serious situation. How well-rounded you get from just doing this martial art? I'm going to say similar to boxing, you're just leaving a lot of holes, I think, because you're just focusing on kicks with the foot, punches with the hands. You're not doing any elbows, no knees, no clinch work, no throws. There's just too many holes, I think, in Savate. I was going to say Sanda, but it's Savate. But it's fine. Like, it's good, especially if you're just doing it for like a year. But yeah, you'd want to do some groundwork at least, or some wrestling. So gives it a score of 68, which puts it in the... Oh, what a surprise. It also puts it in the A tier. But the question is where? Where does that put it? 68. Right beside... I can't... I feel like there's going to be a lot of BJJ people going to go in this video and bully me just because it's starting to get lower and lower down the list. But it's putting it alongside Hapkido and BJJ. So I'll just put it there just to annoy the BJJ people. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is good. It is very good. Just don't bully me too hard. Right, Sumo. I actually have an appreciation for Sumo. I think it's pretty cool. The techniques in Sumo, it's not just two fat guys wrestling. I mean, it kind of is, but there's more to it than that. Again, Sensei Seth does some really good videos on Sumo. Sumo is extremely simple. It's all about being able to push someone else out of a circle or being able to wrestle someone to the ground while you stay on your feet. I think you become extremely good at staying on your feet because that's what it's all about. So that's very important. You learn how to manipulate someone else. So there's some grappling stand-up game in there as well. But let's not give it too much. I mean, it's cool. I like it, but it has its holes. So there is like palm strikes to the face, but that's about it. Sumo techniques taught practical. I'll say 3 out of 5. You have to be within range, and size does favor a sumo, but it is practical, like the wrestling that it has. So 3 out of 5. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? I'm going to say 4 out of 5. Sumo is pretty simple. I would say it's pretty, simple and straightforward to pick up. How fit do you get from just doing the martial art? You become strong and you get that explosive kind of burst of energy, but I don't think you get too much other than that. So you get strong, you can have short bursts of energy, but if you were asked to run a kilometer, you might struggle. So, it's not in the training curriculum, I don't think. Like, you don't need to be able to run kilometers because there's only one round as well. So you have a very quick burst of energy, fight out a round, and that's it. So I will say 2.5 out of 5. You get strong, you don't get cardio fit. Now, how comfortable would you get in a serious situation? I got to say 2.5 out of 5. Like, if you know how to wrestle and throw someone to the ground, that is very effective in the streets, I would say. But you have no strikes, you have no ground game. I'll say 2. 2 out of 5. How well-rounded do you get? Kind of just answered that already. 2 out of 5. You're leaving a lot of holes everywhere. But that puts Sumo at 54, so in the B tier. So it seems a bit high, but I think Sumo can be good. But that puts it, where does that put it? 54, is that the last B tier? I think it is. What does Capoeira have? 16. Yeah, puts it below Capoeira. Basically, let's figure out a fight. Let's get a fight organized between a sumo person and Capoeira. Let's see who wins. I might actually have my money on the sumo person. Sorry, Capoeira. All right, 4 to go. Systema. I would say Krav Maga people are kind of like people who take airsoft extremely seriously. It's like, we got to get to cover and take out the enemies, and everyone else is just like, man, can we just relax? We're just playing airsoft. Like, let's stop like taking it so seriously. That's Krav Maga people. Yeah, if Krav Maga people were the airsoft people, Systema are gonna be like the people playing laser tag and taking it seriously. Everything I have seen online has led me to believe that it's kind of trash. Like a lot of flowing drills, but they say they do everything, but do they? Yeah. It's a Russian martial art, but I don't even know if you can call it a martial art. From what I've seen, it's kind of a joke. Let's just call it as it is. So Systema, the techniques taught practical. I'll throw him a bone. Again, the video that Sensei Seth put out showed that they did some grappling and some knife work, and the punches, I guess, like they're gonna hurt, I suppose. So 2.5 out of 5. Excuse me. How quickly can a beginner pick up the techniques taught? 2 out of 5. I think they can be quite convoluted and learning how to absorb a punch like by flowing. Like it's going to be extremely it's a big question mark on that. So it seems complicated. Maybe it works. I guess we'll have to see it in the UFC. I don't know. How fit do you get from just doing the martial art? If there's grappling and ground fighting, you're instantly just going to be getting tired from that. But a lot of it, I think, is also going to be technique heavy. So 2.5 out of 5. How comfortable would you get? I'm going to say 2 out of 5. I think the way they would fight would just then end up looking like kickboxing, and then they're not going to be as good as kickboxing as someone who just trains kickboxing. So 2 out of 5. No, like, yeah. I'm going to, yeah, average. If there's a good Systema gym, I'll change my mind. I'll go explore it. And how well-rounded you get from just doing this martial art? Yeah, 1.5 out of 5. Do I need to explain that really? Which gives it a score of 42, which puts it in the C tier. So I agree, above Aikido, but that's it. Okay, Taekwondo. Taekwondo is, I'm pretty sure, Taekwondo is Korean, isn't it? Here's what I know Taekwondo gets clowned on a little bit online, but if you do Taekwondo and you are good at Taekwondo, you have exceptional balance, you have extremely good mobility, and you are fit. Like any martial art that focuses just on kicking, you are going to get exhausted. And if you don't believe me, go to a Taekwondo class where they're just focusing on spinning kicks or roundhouse kicks, whatever. You're going to be fit. Our technique's practical. I'll say 3 out of 5. Like, you're going to be very good at distance management, and if you can kick well, it's going to be extremely intimidating as well. Can a beginner pick up the techniques taught like quickly? I think it's going to be more complicated than kickboxing. I'm going to say 3 out of 5. Spinning kicks are complicated. Like they look simple, but if you've never kicked before, they can see like just getting your balance coordination. I'm going to say 2.5 out of 5. I think it can be complicated. Can you get fit from doing the martial art? 4 out of 5. You will become extremely conditioned from doing Taekwondo because you have to be, especially if you do sparring as well. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? Taekwondo has a lot of holes. So if you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of room and you can't make use of your kicks, you're going to be extremely limited through throws, takedowns, punching. Like your punches are not going to be as good as, say, a kickboxer because they have an emphasis on those. So 2.5 out of 5. And how well-rounded do you get from just doing Taekwondo? I'm going to say 2 out of 5. Again, there's too many holes in Taekwondo. It is good. I think it can complement another martial art really well. But yeah, 2 out of 5, which gives it a score of 56, which puts it in the B tier. The question is where does that, what does that put that alongside? Is it, what did I give Jeet June Do? JKD. I gave that a 60. So it's below Jeet June Do. What is Capoeira? 56. I was talking about 56. The same as Capoeira. I'm going to put it above Capoeira just because you do have sport element. I don't think Capoeira does have. I'm sure there's some kind of Capoeira tournament now that I say that. But yeah, I'm happy with that. I'll put it above Capoeira. Okay, Vale Tudo. Do I even want to... I think I might just put this in the DK tier. Not that I don't know it, but Vale Tudo is no holds bar. It's basically MMA before MMA. So soccer kicks to the head, hits to the groin, eye stuff. And I know that, sorry, I will put in the DK tier because I don't know enough. Maybe there were no eye strikes, there were some rules, but basically Vale Tudo is no holds barred, anything goes. And that is what evolved into MMA. So I will just put that in the DK tier. I don't really know how to rank that. Oh, God. We're ending on Drunken Fist. I'm half tempted to put this in the DK tier, but let's just rank it for fun. An emphasis on like wacky and like unpredictable movements. So, what am I doing? I'm drunk and oh, gotcha. There are techniques to it. I think the techniques in it would be good. Like if you're a boxer and you're shelling up or something, and then you like go back and you go, oh man, yeah. I think like substituting in some Drunken Fist techniques into something else would be really cool by itself. Let's just speed through this. So technique's practical, I'll say 2 out of 5. Is beginner, can the beginner pick it up quickly? Let's just say 3 out of 5. How fit do you get from doing it? I've started this far. I actually don't know enough about this one, so correct me if I'm wrong. 2.5 out of 5. How comfortable would you get in a serious situation? If everyone's constantly doing this, then you're not training against someone who's fighting properly. Talk about winging it. 2.5 out of 5. And how well-rounded you get? 2 out of 5. So score of 48. Puts it in the C tier. Does that put it above Systema? What did I give Systema? That puts it above Systema. That's fine. Yep. That's fine with me. So I would say anyone who's new, here's some things. Let me start again. Let me get my thoughts straight. If you are new and you are looking for something to do, I think the most important thing to do is to read reviews. Like, find something that's close. Read the reviews to see if people like it and if the instructors are good. Do a trial. So most good gyms, if not all good gyms should have like a free trial. So go down and trial it out. Do that. See if you enjoy the class, see if you enjoy the community. And honestly, pick something you will enjoy. So if you know that you're going to enjoy doing capoeira, go do that. You're going to get fit. You're going to have a really abstract way of fighting. And if you enjoy it, like, do it because it's fun. Because if it's not fun, what's the point? If you're looking at my lists, like, I think anything in the S and A tier, you're going to be a good fighter if you take it. You're going to be able to defend yourself. Any of those you could pick, and I think you'll be good. Obviously, I rank some higher than others, but I'm going to call it there. This has been a long video. I've been recording for over an hour now, and I can feel it in my voice. I do love this stuff. I could talk about it for hours, but if you would like to see a video where I rank the ones which I put in the DK tier, let me know. But otherwise, have a good one.